For the most part, troubleshooting a hopper system is like troubleshooting any system. You're going to look for the obvious problems first and then follow a troubleshooting path based on the issue the customer is experiencing, and then move on to final quick checks. But the hopper system is unique since it uses Mocha technology, so there's a few other steps we need to consider. So I'm going to show you these steps and walk you through them on a repair appointment today using the tech steps for hopper troubleshooting. And just like any appointment, you're going to want to show up prepared for the job and make sure you have all the right tools. Check the account notes before greeting the customer so that you know the issue they're experiencing. That way when you do greet them, you'll give them confidence that you know what the issue is and that you're going to get it fixed. Hey, I'm Evan with Dish.
Good morning.
I hear you're having trouble getting picture on one of your Joeys?
Yeah, I have an error code displaying on one of the ones upstairs.
Okay, well if you wouldn't mind showing me where that is, I can go ahead and get started.
Sure, come on in.
Let me put some boot covers on here, protect your floors. Okay. For basic troubleshooting, start at the location the customer takes you to, where the problem's at. If the problem is at the Joey or Super Joey location, go to step 2. If it's at the hopper location, skip to step 3. If the problem is happening on more than one Joey, go to step 3. These preliminary steps are quick and easy, and it's important not to skip over them. I've already verified that the problem is at the Super Joey location here and checked that everything is plugged in and powered on. I've also verified the TV is on the correct input, has the correct video resolution and formatting, and I've verified that the TV is working properly. So now I'm going to unplug the Joey from power and test the outlet that it's plugged into. If the tester shows no electrical issues, plug the Joey back in and check to see if the issue is resolved. If it's not, we're going to go to the hopper location and run all these same tests. While I'm at the hopper location, I'm going to go ahead and go back through basic troubleshooting. If all that checks out, then I'm going to unplug the hopper from power. While the system is unplugged, we're going to do an interior system inspection. And having the system unplugged means that the customer's hopper, any powered switches, and even their router is unplugged. First, test the outlet or surge protector with the receptacle tester. Check the components of the system that are inside the home. Make sure the cable is approved rating and in good condition. And make sure the barrels connecting the cables are high frequency. Checking the cables and barrels is important because Mocha networks utilize the full 3 GHz of bandwidth on the 3 GHz coaxial cables. Even a single connector can take the whole system down. Make sure that the stingers are about the width of a nickel past the end of the connector. This one here looks about right. Reattach all the connectors and make sure they're hand tight. Then plug all the hoppers, powered switches, and router back in. This will reboot the system. And the steps we've covered so far will actually resolve a lot of the issues that we see at customers' homes. While you're waiting for the system to reboot, make sure all the receivers are activated and listed on the customer's account in ETA Direct. Use Portal to check for known product issues and pull up the most current software version. Check that against what's on the customer's receivers by accessing the System Info screen. Check the System Info screen to see if the software version matches. If it doesn't, place the receiver into standby mode so that it can download the software. Since the issue still isn't resolved, I'm going to move on to the next step, which is a system inspection between the receivers and the dish. So at this point, we've done basic troubleshooting, rebooted the entire system, performed a system inspection at each receiver, and made sure everything is up to standard. We've also verified that the receivers are activated, have current software, and that the issue the customer is experiencing isn't a known issue. These steps will typically solve a large percentage of the issues you're going to see. And if it does, then move on to final quick checks. But for this example, I'm going to continue on with the troubleshooting to show you the rest of the process. Now to do that, I'm going to go ahead and unplug the system so that way I can avoid electrical shock. Once the system's unplugged, check all the components. I'm going to start with the connection between the receiver and the node. Make sure the cable rating is approved and in good condition. Refresh on your Mocha installation rules on Portal if needed, but here's some important ones to keep in mind as you're inspecting the system. The cable runs between the LNB and the hopper and between any 2 receivers cannot exceed 200 feet. Next, check that there are no more than 2 components between each receiver. Also, check that the barrel between the receiver and the node are high-frequency barrels. And just like we did before, check that all stingers are about the width of a nickel past the connector. Okay, it looks like this stinger is a bit short, and that could very well be what's causing our issue. So I'm going to go ahead and replace this connector, and that should get us up and running again. Once you've replaced the necessary components, go ahead and plug everything back in, and then see if the issue's been resolved at the problem location. If it has been, then we can just move on to final quick checks. But if we don't find anything wrong with the connections, we're going to move on to more targeted troubleshooting. You'll start from the system status screen. Check for anything that is not green or good to determine which flow you'll need to follow. You can also use any symptoms that the customer explained or any error codes to indicate which flow you will use. Each colored box is also labeled to correspond with a section in the system status screen. There is a broadband, Mocha, hard drive or hardware, satellite signal, or remote issues. The first box is for broadband issues, such as the receiver not connecting to the internet or certain apps not working. The Mocha flow is usually followed on 1303 or 1305 error messages, or when the Joeys have a pixelated image or no picture at all. The hard drive or hardware flow is followed when the receiver is rebooting or missing recordings, or error codes 311 or 355 are shown. The satellite signal flow is very similar to VIP troubleshooting and is usually followed when 015 or 002 error messages are displayed. Last is the remote flow, which is followed when the remote is not communicating properly with the TV or receiver. Remember to follow all of the steps for each of the flows, but we're going to cover some of the flows in a bit more detail. If you flip over to the back side of the tech steps for Hopper troubleshooting, you'll see a yellow box that says Mocha with a C on it, which directly lines up with this icon on the system status screen. Go to the Mocha diagnostic screen and link all unlinked Joeys. Then verify that all Mocha indicators are green. If they're not, follow location-based testing. Location-based testing is essentially taking the problem Joey and swapping it with another Joey in the system. If the problem follows the Joey, then we know it is a problem with the box. If the problem stays in the room, we know it is a problem with the system, and I would need to double check the cabling and components again. Keep in mind, Joeys are almost never the cause of the problem. Joeys receive their software from the Hopper and don't have internal tuners or hard drives. They have very little that can go wrong with them because they're essentially a display of content from the Hopper. Back on the other side, take a look at box G, which is for satellite signal troubleshooting. This is similar to signal troubleshooting on other systems. The only difference is that when you're running your limit scans progressively along the system, you will need to bypass the node. The SuperBuddy will not be able to accurately gauge signal with the node connected. So first, set up a limit scan at the dish side of the node. If the scan passes, bypass the node with a barrel and perform another scan. Again, this is the only step that is different from other systems when troubleshooting signal loss. After completing the symptom flows for the issue the customer is experiencing, go back to the system status screen. If you're seeing additional issues, go back to the beginning of symptom flow troubleshooting to try and resolve that particular issue that you're seeing. Finally, just like any other repair appointment, perform final quick checks. This includes inspecting the dish and mount, the cabling and components, grounding, connectivity, and completing customer education. Being prepared and completing all the troubleshooting steps will help you troubleshoot all systems effectively. By following the steps in this document, you'll be able to solve Hopper system issues more efficiently. Don't skip steps, and remember that Joeys are rarely the cause of the problem. Take a minute and familiarize yourself with the tech steps for Hopper troubleshooting. This process will help reduce repeat trouble calls, increase CSAT, and your PPPH. That's all for this time. Thanks for joining.